Living the dream is more than a phrase. It's the story of Dawn Jones. With over 35 years in broadcast journalism, the Emmy Award-winning anchor, author, and dynamic storyteller has built a career connecting with audiences through authenticity, humor, and heart. A proud Flint native, Dawn has worn many hats, from Detroit radio to ABC 12 anchor to communications director to published author. Today, she continues to inspire others with her voice, her presence, and her passion for living life out loud. This is Dawn Jones, and this is B-Roll Matters.
And when I think about how my career has evolved over the years, I have to think back to how it all started. And I give ode to the Black Baptist Church. I grew up in the Black Baptist Church,
Mhm.
and in the Black Baptist Church, you were allowed to explore your gifts and talents. You were encouraged and pushed. You didn't even know those were your gifts and talents. Those were the gifts and talents that your parents, your grandparents, the pastors, the mothers, the elders, the deacons decided were going to be your gifts and talents.
Tell them.
Yeah. And so for me, when I talk about public speaking, it goes back to April 6, 1969. And April 6, 1969, I was two, almost three. I was born in 1966, so I was almost three. And I stood in front of a crowd at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in
Yeah.
Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
Very tearfully, I am sure tears were involved. I was two, so
Yeah.
I'm sure tears were involved. And very tearfully said, Happy Easter Day. And I cried and ran off stage
Right.
to just that, the applause
Yeah. Yeah.
of the crowd.
Yeah. You got
That
it.
was the very first time that I engaged in public speaking. I was 2 years old, and the crowd loved it. Because in the Black Baptist Church, when I was growing up, getting an Easter speech is something you did as soon as you were able to form not even a sentence, words. So if I could say happy Easter and day and say all three words at one time, that's an Easter speech. And I was saying it at the age of 2 3/4, almost three.
Right.
And uh, as I continued in the church, I learned leadership. I was the president of the youth department. I was the president of the choir.
Whether you wanted to or not, huh?
And then it was a popularity contest. Nothing about your leadership skills, at least for me at that moment, it was more about all of my friends were at choir rehearsal. And when
Mm,
they were taking nominations
mm,
for
right.
president of the choir, they said, we want Dawn to be president of the choir. And then when they did the yays, all the yays raised their hands. So I learned leadership skills. I mean, it was great for me. I was in middle school or junior high school back then, and it was great training for leadership. I emceed programs. I continued to give Easter speeches. I gave speeches at the local conventions. And so it was just a great training ground. And it's really where I started.
Tell us how all of that young inspiration and in this amazing career you had, how were you able to pour all of that into the book?
Okay, so in Speak is just a guide. And I'll tell you how it came about. I was giving a speech maybe last year, and a woman came up to me after the speech and she said, That was great. I was at a church. She says, That was great. And I said, Thank you. She says, But I don't know how you do it. And I says, Do what? She says, Stand in front of a crowd and you make it look so easy.
Hmm.
And I said, Oh, anybody can do it. She says, No, I'm terrified. I would never be able to do that. And I told her in that moment, I says, Yes, you can. I says, Because public speaking is just a skill like any other skill. You learn it,
Hmm.
you master it, you do it. So it's just a skill. She says, no, I can't do that. So she suggested, the woman suggested at the time, that I host a workshop or I write a book to help people
Yeah.
like herself get over their fear of public speaking. I've got 9, 10, 12 projects going at a time, all of the time.
Yes, you do. And I'm sure none of
And
that includes any of the Don Jones kids or because I don't.
9, 10, 11, 12 projects going at one time.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and said, I don't have time to host a workshop.
Right.
And I clearly don't have time to sit down and write a book. I just don't have time.
Hmm.
I didn't think I couldn't do it. I just didn't see where that it wasn't on my bingo card. It wasn't in what I had planned to do in 2024.
Right.
So I was talking to another friend and I was telling her what the woman had said. And she says, why don't you write an ebook? And I says, well, what's an ebook? And she says, the ebook does not have to be as intensive as a printed hardcover book.
Sure.
It can be a simple guide that is in PDF form, and people do it all of the time. They take their expertise, they put it in ebook form, and they market it to the masses, to the people who may need that particular expertise. I had never really heard of ebooks. I am still a bookstore girl.
I have a lot of ebooks. I got
Yeah,
a lot of
I'm
books
still
in
a
order
book
to them. Yeah, too. Yeah.
a bookstore girl. So I really didn't know much about ebooks. And once she told me it doesn't have to be a lot of pages, you don't have to find someone to write a foreword or anything like that. It's just
Right.
really your introduction and your expertise, what you want people to learn. I says, oh, I may be able to do that. So I did a little research and found that it took me about 30 days and I compiled some information and did some research and was able to put it together in what I think is a very simple, easy to follow, written for anyone, and is strictly for the beginner, the person who says, I could never do that.
Hmm.
And it's not meant to turn anyone into the next TED Talk presenter, you
But
know,
get there.
huh?
You can get there with the work.
Oh, you can get there with the work, but that's not what this simple guide is meant to do. But if you put some of these practical tips into practice,
Hmm.
then yes, who knows? You can speak on any stage. It's really about Jamal just helping people show up and own their voice. You
Hmm.
know, not to shrink in a public space because first of all, they're afraid of the sound of their own voice. And a lot of people don't think what they have to say matters.
Why you think so many people struggle with speaking in public?
I really don't know why so many people struggle. I was shocked when I did the research. I think it was Psychology Today. There was a research in Psychology Today about it. It's called glossophobia, which is the actual term for people who have a fear of speaking in public. 77% of the population has
Oh,
this. And researchers say that it is the number one fear, more than the fear of death, the fear of flying, the fear
oh,
of dogs, and
whoa.
the fear of speaking in public. And it took me back to, and it's in the ebook. It took me back to when we were in school and it was time to read aloud.
Hmm.
Not everyone wanted to read aloud. Of course, my hand was raised to read aloud because I started at 2
Right.
in the Black Baptist Church
Like Baptist.
to
Yes, ma'am.
rousing applause. So, yes, I want to read aloud.
Me.
Me, yeah. But for most people, it was frightening, whether they knew the words or they knew how to read. A lot of people, when we were learning to read in elementary school, feared reading aloud because they weren't confident in their ability to read.
Correct.
So it was the fear of that. But It was the fear of judgment, more importantly, what other people were going to say. Did someone laugh at you when you read out loud?
Hmm.
Has someone ever told you that to hush? Hush is a word in the Black family that's, it's a word that
Ooh.
we use all the time. Hush,
Mm.
not be quiet, just hush. So did someone hush your voice at some point? So you think that what you have to say does not matter.
Wow.
And what happens is when we are faced with having a moment or speaking in public, again, all of those memories, the brain has stored all of those memories and the feelings that are attached to them. So, however you felt in that moment in third grade when you were learning to read,
Yep.
and the teacher called on you to read, and you messed up a word, lost your place, or didn't quite know how to read, and all of the kids who are 8 and 9 years old who are still learning to read as well
Right. They just
started
do.
laughing
Right. Yeah.
and telling you you can't read, or people have speech impediments, you can't talk, you
Right.
can't,
Yeah.
or
All of that.
if you remember an adult telling you to hush, be quiet.
Mm. Very-
So
Yeah.
when you think about opening your mouth in a public space and saying something, all of those memories are flooded back, in
Mm.
your brain. And not only do the memories come back, but the feelings associated with those.
Mm. So
And you start
it's a level of a PTSD.
pretty much because, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to step on
Okay.
anyone's toes.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on anyone's toes or put anything out there that has not been scientifically proven. But in my opinion, I believe it is because if I can remember the first couple of times I've delivered a keynote address and maybe I lost my space, what that felt like.
Mm. Yeah. I think
Almost like the
one's
fear of
experience.
failure.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The fear of failure. I think the fear of failure may be the biggest fear of them all. The fear of failure in public speaking, not so much speaking in public, but the fear of failure while doing that.
Yeah.
And failure is different for different people.
It is because the standard is different for everyone as well,
It,
right?
it is, it's an individual thing, and typically it's standards that we place on ourselves.
Yeah. Or it's been seen. I mean, my own kids has told me like, man, the standard is high for our family, and there's a lot of pressure to live up to that. So really, it could be that. Listen, the church has a very high standard, right?
The church,
There's a,
except for when you're two, it's
and
it's all this. At 12, not so much, but at two,
let's be honest. Every if you're two, your mother or grandmother is in that front row. They snuck down to the front row, and they're mouthing it off, and they really don't want you to screw this up. They want to be able to brag on you for another year until next Easter to say, "Y'all see my baby up there? Oh, she did her thing, didn't she?" Like you, they
so
want
the standards are even high at that, at two.
absolutely, absolutely talk about. And so you were able to own the room every day on TV. For how many years in TV have you been Grace
I've been on television since 2003.
2003, gracing our presence. Lovely Dr. Jones.
2003.
Talk about owning a room. What does that mean by being able to own the room?
Being able to capture an audience, uh, for me, especially in my career,
Mm-hmm.
that means that people trust me.
Mm,
That means that I've earned credibility with the people who are watching. And it means that people are willing to spend a little time, everything they have to do in their day. They're still willing to turn on the television
mm,
to hear what I have to say. So it means that there's value in my presence, there's value in what I say, and I am there with a servant's heart. I'm actually serving the community,
it's deep.
and that's how I view the job that I have. had the awesome pleasure to do in my hometown community
Right.
uh, since 2003. I am just there to serve the community in the most honest and unbiased and authentic way that I know possible.
Wow.
So when it comes to owning the room, I really think authenticity is the key to owning the room. Because people are there, they don't want to see anyone other than me. And they want Dawn to show up. Not a version of Dawn, but Dawn. And there's only one Dawn.
There is, for sure.
So that's what that means. That's what that means to me. Owning and capturing that, owning and capturing that audience. In the book, I talk about connection is greater than perfection.
Mm.
So every day I show up in the spirit of excellent. I want to be excellent.
Oh, I say this all the time. Mm.
I
Yes.
want to be excellent, but excellence is not perfection.
No. Mm.
And when you do it long enough, you understand that connection is greater than perfection. I I butcher something every day. I'm on air live 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
solo by myself. So guaranteed at least 2 days out of the week, something's not gonna go right.
Live TV for sure.
Live TV, and I'm anchoring, that's 10 shows a week I anchor solo
Mm.
for 10 hours. So something's, but I show up in the spirit of excellence. I
Mm.
show up to give the crowd and the viewers excellence.
Wow. Is there?
And if perfection happens to come,
Mm.
then of course that's a win. If I happen to be perfect on that day, oh, that of course is a win.
For sure.
But I strive to be excellent every day.
Wow. Could you give us like can you give me a tip or give our audience like a tip, something in the book about speaking in public? You know, maybe it's an exercise or something you ask them to do that that's something they can work on. Obviously they need to go buy the book, but something you can give us.
But oh, yeah. So in the book, in the ebook, I talk a lot about what you can do, and I tell a story about when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And when I was 10 or 11 years old, here in Flint, I was listening to WAMM Wham radio, and they had a contest. And when I was a kid, you'd have the radio right here, the phone right here, and you were waiting for the contest. And they were giving away 29s. Do you want some peanut butter? Of course you can. Do you want some peanut butter? Of course you can. So I really wanted that 45 or album or whatever.
Mm.
And I called into the radio station, and the disc jockey said, "You're caller number 10." And I said, "I am?" He says, "Yes, you're caller number 10. Hold the line." So I held the line. And when the disc jockey came to me, he said, "Young man, what's your name?" I said, "I'm a girl." So I tell that story to say that was the first time I had ever heard my voice.
Mm.
I had never really heard my voice before.
Right.
And it was deep. I understand he may have thought I was a boy because of the tone of my voice. And I didn't like it.
Mm.
I did not like my voice. I did not want that voice. It hasn't changed much since that time. It's evolved and
Sure.
I've matured, but the voice itself
Mm.
at the foundation is the same.
Yeah.
So I tell people, learn to love your voice first. You have to love the sound of your voice. You'll never be able to speak confidently if every time you speak, you're like, "Oh, I can't stand the way my voice sounds." You just won't be able to do it.
Hear that all the time when people hear themselves on camera or whatever, like, oh, I can't stand the sound of my voice. Turn it down, turn it down, turn it down.
People don't like
No.
to hear the sound of their voice. And a lot of times we've been conditioned to not like the sounds of our voice. If you've ever heard someone say they're just talking because they like the sound of their own voice,
Mm,
that has a negative connotation.
it does.
So if you've ever heard that, it basically says what you have to say doesn't have value. You're only talking because you like to hear the sound of your voice. I say learn to love the sound of your voice.
Yeah,
It's yours. It's unique. It's like our fingerprint. It's uniquely yours.
it is.
No two people, and you are a twin, and you and your brother, your voices are not exactly alike,
Very similar. Yeah, I
but not exactly alike.
know.
So learn to love the sound of your voice. And there's so many ways to do that today. Back in the day, we had to get our cassette recorder out, put the cassette in, talk in the microphone.
Yep,
Today,
yep.
there's so many ways you can pick up your cell phone
Mhm.
and you can record yourself. Listen back to it. Listen back to your cadence. Listen back to how your phraseology, how you say what you say, and learn to love the sound of your voice. Get comfortable. If you're not going to love it, at least get comfortable with the sound of your voice.
Mm,
That's the first step if you want to be able to speak in public, if you want to share that voice in a public space, you've got to be comfortable with the sound. What's coming out of your mouth?
that is great advice. I've not even heard that advice before. That is great advice.
Yeah, so getting comfortable with the sound of your voice. And I say, what would have happened? Where would my career have been if that same little girl
Mhm.
who I was embarrassed when he said little boy, because when you're 10 or 11 and you are a girl and someone's calling you a boy, you think all of your friends heard and he called me a boy or said my voice, just based on my voice. He didn't know, just based on,
Everybody was next to the radio then.
yeah, that's what you think in your head. And our own self-talk, our own self-talk can keep us from pursuing lots of things. So what if I would have held on to that moment?
Hmm. You wouldn't.
Instead, after he said that, I recorded myself with my cassette
Yeah.
because I wanted to hear it. I wanted to, I genuinely became interested. Well, what does my voice sound like? Do I sound like a boy? And I went to ask my mom, do I sound like a boy? So get comfortable with the sound of your voice. Once you do that, and you can do that, like I said, you can just record yourself daily on your cell phone and listen to the sound of your voice and get comfortable with the sound of your voice. And to move one step further, you can, if you want to step out into the public speaking space, host an IG live or a Facebook live
Very good. Hmm.
and get a topic, talk about it to get over your jitters. Before you get to that point, practice it in the mirror.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be long, it can be 5 minutes. Practice it in the mirror. Get comfortable with it. I don't recommend memorizing anything,
Mm.
but I do recommend knowing it.
Facts.
Know your material. Don't memorize it. If you memorize it, you don't allow any room for pivot
Mhm.
because in your mind, you've memorized this speech word for word, and you're going to say it word for word, word for word. And if something happens, if you need to respond or engage with someone in the audience, if that's not a part of the script that you've memorized, then all of a sudden you're thrown off your square. So don't memorize it, know it.
Really.
As if you're talking to, if you were telling me a story about what happened in your day or something that happened at school with one of your students or anything,
Hmm.
you could tell that story because you know it.
Right.
You feel it. You're there. It's not that you've memorized it, you just know the story. And I can interject something and you can go right back to it. And that's what you should do with your speech. Just know it. Don't memorize it, know it.
Wow. So you had this moment on the radio and
Mhm.
were able to go through the steps of listening to your voice, and then at some point in your journey you ended up on the radio. So
I
talk about
did.
how that happened.
Well, I went to Specs Howard School of Broadcasting Arts in Southfield. It was in Southfield at the time. And it was a concentration of radio and television at the time. I had no plans to ever be in radio. None. I hadn't even thought about it. So, to tell you how much I had planned to be in television, when I graduated high school, I wrote in our memory book that I was going to grow up and I was going to take Peter Jennings' job. I was going to,
Yep.
and that just shows the naivete of an 18-year-old because you don't want to take anyone's job. You don't want to, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to take anyone's job. But I was so sure I was going to be a television anchor. I wanted it. That's what I wanted to do. So I went to Specs Howard, and it was something about the magic of radio.
Mm.
It just drew me in. I can't even explain it. And I got my first job on the radio doing traffic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And still I've always been a news girl. I've been a news junkie since I was a kid. So traffic's fine, but I really wanted, to be on news radio in
Right.
Detroit, the big news radio station in
Right.
Detroit.
Right.
I still had,
It's still big time, yeah.
yeah, I still had my sights set on, you know, doing the news in Detroit. And I started with traffic, and Martha Jean the Queen, she owned WQBH in Detroit at the time, 1400 AM WQBH. Martha Jean the Queen. By the way, she is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she was my very early mentor. I was doing traffic for her station, and she told one of her employees, the next time that girl calls in to tell her to come see me. I went to see her, told her what I wanted to do with my life, and she made an opportunity for me to do news at WQBH Radio. So I spent a couple of years there. I left there and went to do traffic for WJZZ at the time. I did traffic for Mason, who was on WJOB at the time. I left there and my radio career just continued to evolve.
Wow.
And I met some lifelong friends, had some amazing times. Radio, there's something really magical about radio, which I think a lot of people are discovering with podcasts.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, that there's something just really
Yes, yes, it is.
magical about it. And 13 years I spent in radio.
Wow. You had a great career.
I did a stint in Kansas City. Most of it was in Detroit, but I did a short stint in Kansas City and came to Flint and worked at our local radio station, WDZZ. So it
Okay.
was a
What lessons were you able to take out of radio that you were able to take with you to television?
lessons. I guess the biggest lesson I learned in radio that I was able to take to television is the connection piece.
Mm,
Connection is greater than perfection.
it's true.
And when you connect with people, and radio is a medium where a lot of people are more comfortable being authentic
Mm,
because people can't see you. at least at that time, they could not see you. So you felt more comfortable being your authentic self. It's just you and a microphone.
Right.
Not a whole lot of people around. People can't see you. In the days when I was doing radio, now they have webcams and they stream shows live. But back then it was just you and a microphone.
Yeah.
And so authenticity, I took that with me, and I think that that has been the key to my long career in television.
Yeah.
Is with me, you know what you're going to get. I'm very consistent. I'm consistently Dawn.
Yes, you are. Yes.
you know, Other than gaining or losing a few pounds here and there, I don't change. I'm consistent. I'm consistently Dawn. And what you see is what you get. I'm the same Dawn you see in Kroger.
You are though. I,
Yeah, the same one you see in
I,
Kroger is the same one that shows up on television.
Yeah. So like when a lot of times I tell students like they say, well, how do you talk on TV? How do you supposed to act? I say, you just need to just be you. I said, how
See?
come I can't see the person I'm seeing right now? Like there's not a they teach you not to talk in your TV voice when you're in school, right? I don't know if they taught you that. They taught us not to talk in our TV voice. Get on the mic and you put on this certain persona about who you are. But I love that about you. You are just uniquely Don Jones, and you are all the time. I love that. But you're right. I tell people, real always recognize real.
That's right. That's right.
Feel you through the screen, so we feel how authentic and real you are. We know when people been fake. We
And
recognize
we
that quickly. Like, oh, they so fake. They so fake.
and it's connection over perfection. I keep driving that point home because it's so true
Yeah.
that the viewers at home, they are not expecting me to be perfect,
Mm-mm.
but they are drawn to the connection they have with me. And when you are genuinely and authentically connected with an audience, there's grace.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's grace.
It is.
So if you're less than perfect today, still excellent, but less than perfect, because you've established a connection, there's grace.
All right. We need to pass around an offering basket. You know, you have done TV for nearly 2 decades or over 2 decades. Over 2 decades. I'm sure there's been a lot of different barriers. You being a woman and B black. And I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg of barriers you had to face. How are you able to overcome those barriers? And were you able to was it just as difficult in radio as well?
And Jamal, to be honest with you, I'm always a woman and I'm always black. Those things are never going to change. But for me, the way I have overcome my barriers is I'm always authentic. You know what you're going to get with me. And I understand that I may not be everyone's cup of tea, but that's okay.
Mm.
It's not going to change how I do me. There's 8 billion people in the world, and people get to choose. You know how much 8 billion is? 8 billion people in the world, and people get to choose. So I may not be your choice, but I am somebody's choice.
You got such the right attitude. Oh, we need to put that in a bottle and sell it for 19.99 somewhere.
Yeah, so I don't I don't now disrespect I don't tolerate. But just because you're walking around with some chip on your shoulder about my gender or my race, I'm always going to be black and I'm always going to be a woman. That's on you.
Right.
Disrespect is different.
Tell them, Don. You better tell them.
I
Don't want none.
don't, we're not tolerating that, but I'm not changing how I move because you're hung up on race and gender. Oh, that you need to work that out.
Mm.
I am still authentically going to be who I am. And I believe in everything I have. It's the Black Baptist Church in me. I'm able to do that regardless of the barriers or the perceived barriers that people think that they have placed before you, because I truly believe and know in my soul and my heart of hearts that what God has for me is for me. So you can do whatsoever you choose.
Mm, I don't know.
The universe has already figured it out for me. So do whatsoever you choose.
Yep, that path has already been laid out.
And so I am comfortable with who I am. I'm authentically who I am. And I'm not going to let your hangups on my race or my gender get in the way of my purpose and what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You've been blessed to be able to tell tell stories in your own hometown for this long. Like how amazing is that, knowing that the stories you've been able to tell on the streets, on camera, as an anchor, has been able to make change after change after change after change. People who may not know the power of storytelling visually is so impactful. And then you have um the power of being able to do it because you were born on these same streets that you tell the stories on, right? So it adds a level of value on top of what you already bring. But how impactful have that been for you, being able to do that here in your own hometown?
There's nothing like it. There is absolutely nothing like telling the stories of the people you know,
Yeah,
giving space for the stories for people you know, and being a voice in a space where there are people who are not of this community, and helping to dispel myths and biases and things that they bring with them when they come to a community like Flint.
right.
So there's absolutely nothing like it. And I'm always a storyteller. I love telling I love telling stories. I am always a storyteller, and there's always a story to be told.
Always.
And just because and TV, and you've worked in television, we have editorial meetings, and editorial meetings is where everyone gets together and they kind of they go over stories of the day. People bring story ideas, and I think what I tell people all the time is, just because TV may have said, local TV, we only have so much time and so many resources.
Right.
Just because TV didn't get to your story doesn't mean it's not a story.
Correct.
If someone pitches a story to me and we're not able to do it, I'm not devaluing your story. I'm just saying we don't have capacity.
Correct.
So I want people to know that your story matters. Your story matters. And whether we get it on TV or we don't, it does not take the value away from your story.
Yeah. Talk about some of the best memories you have thus far in your career. Maybe someone you've met, something you've done, something you've covered.
Okay, well, since you ask,
Throw it
it was 2008. And one Mr. Barack Obama, Senator Barack Obama, was running for president of the United States. He came to Kettering University.
Yes. I covered that event. At least one of the times he was there. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was at Kettering University. And I actually got an opportunity to interview him.
Wow.
And in true Don Jones fashion, if you've ever had an opportunity to interview a presidential candidate, you know it comes with a lot of rules and regulations.
It does.
You get 2 minutes. You get, and 2 minutes is not a long time, but you get 2 minutes. You got to stand in the line, and you know that the whole thing. Secret Service has to vet you out, all of that. So when I was given the assignment that I was going to be the one to interview Barack Obama from the television station I was working for,
Wow.
my coworkers and colleagues, they were all excited. He was a black man running for president.
Mm.
So they were giving me, they said, bring me his autograph back. Bring me this back. Bring me that back. And of course, those are my coworkers. We're in these trenches together. We tell these stories together. I said, okay. And I was going to be the closest one to him in that group.
Sure.
Our photographer and I, Tommy Brocklehurst.
Ours, yeah.
So we get to the room and it's our turn. And this is exactly what I tell the man who would become the next president of the United States. I says, look, I got 2 minutes. I got to interview you because I need to keep my job, but I got to take a picture with you too. And I had a stack of press passes. I said, and I need you to sign all these press passes for my friends.
Oh, you was
And
gonna
he looked at me and he gave me this look like, this woman is nuts. And so he said, um, okay, well, this is what, and I went in with my own camera, like my own Canon $2,500 camera, because I was getting a good picture with,
yeah, you wasn't dealing with what was out in 2008 on the phones.
no,
No.
no, no, no. I had my own camera. And so he says, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. He says, since you come in with all of this, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I said, okay, okay.
Mm.
And I says, well, sign these press passes. And I told him, say to Jamal,
Right. Mm.
uh, with love from Barack Obama. He says, I'm not doing that. So he took the press passes and he just wrote Barack Obama, Barack Obama,
Mm.
Barack Obama. And we did the interview. And then he stood up. This was the best part of the whole thing. He stands up and he says, okay, so who's taking the picture? I'm on one side of him and Tommy is on the other side. And I look at him and say, I don't know. I'm in the picture. So whoever's taking, I don't know, sir.
One of y'all, you or you, grab the camera. Let's go.
Because I don't know. I don't, I didn't move from that spot. I don't know. But I'm here. And Tommy's locked in there. And we're getting our picture.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. I wouldn't move either. I know nowadays
And so
they're more prevalent, but I'm not moving out of this spot.
yeah, so someone he had, I don't know if she was doing press for him at the time, but she was there. She says, "Oh, well, I guess I'm taking the picture." I said, "Okay, the shutter button is right there." And I stood and took my photo.
Yeah.
And it was a great moment. He shook my hand and said, "I shall never forget this moment."
And I'm sure he hasn't.
Yeah, so it was a great moment. So that's one of the best moments. I never liked some of the worst moments for me were covering crime stories,
Yeah.
especially crime stories with young children.
Me too. I feel the same way.
And it was a rough week for me one week, and it was just seems like there were young kids were losing their lives every day, and I was kind of on that beat. I was a young mother, I had children, and it was really tough for me to be on that beat. And there was a young boy, third grade, died in a drive-by shooting while he was in his house on his sofa asleep. I had a son at the time around the same age, and it impacted me so greatly. I went to my boss and I said, I can't do that. I can't. I can't do crime.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for it. I can't do that. And I told him, I say, I want to be the good news reporter. And he looks at me, he says, There's no such thing. Don't you say that outside of this room.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I know his face had to be like,
Yes.
what you
He says,
talking about?
there's no such, but I'm Black Baptist church girl raised, so I want to be the good news reporter. And he says, there's no such thing. And, but what he did was, he did assign those stories to someone else, and I became the ribbon cutting girl. I was at every ribbon cutting, and I got an opportunity to tell stories that showcased good things that were happening in Genesee County, economic development, good things that were happening in Flint, in downtown Flint. I really got to tell a lot of character driven stories as a result. And that was kind of the turning point in my career. It really connected me with local politicians, people who run nonprofit organizations, people who are doing things in the community. And I found my place there.
Yeah,
Crime was, that probably was the hardest part of this journey for me, is when I was on the crime beat.
yeah, I would have to agree. I would have to agree. There was a moment where I think what's changed for me was that as you know, we hear things that come over the scanner, right? And so sometimes we hear before, or well, we're hearing it at the same time the police is hearing it. And we're out the door, we're getting out there, you basically hurry up to wait at a crime scene.
At a crime scene, yeah.
One time it was like, where's this scene at? We didn't see any lights. There was no police tape. But then we saw a shoe in the middle of the street. It was like, is that somebody in the street? The police wasn't even there yet. And it was a kid got hit. It was a hit and run. It was one of those moments. I tell this story all the time to people when people ask me like, what's the worst thing about covering news? And it's just like, again, I actually have, my daughter was young at the time as well. And I was like, I don't know if I can, this is rough. You have to
Yeah.
go home and being able to deal with what you visually saw and then try to connect, like, why is this all happening? Like, why something bad happened to these innocent young people? So yeah, I can understand that, dealing with the number of shootings you have to cover and the murders and all of that. But the
And
good,
not understanding why.
why is this happening?
Happening, yeah. And I think that's another part for me that's hard. I don't understand, why this is happening. Why would this be the only response to whatever happened, taking the life of a child or taking the life of anyone for that matter?
Yeah,
So that was some of the toughest, when I was on the street as a reporter. Those things were tough for me. And as an anchor now, they're tough for me to even read.
yeah,
And you can see on my face, I wear all of my emotions. They used to tell you, don't smile on TV. Don't. I wear all of
yeah. Because
my emotions
yeah,
because I'm a human being. I'm a real person,
mhm,
and you can't tell the story of certain things and not have any reaction, because that means you can't be stoic and tell some stories, because we're human.
facts.
Yeah. So
So Don, you mentioned it earlier, but for sure, every time I see you, you are smiling. You're happy. You on cloud 13. So tell the world why you're always smiling. Let's kind of dig a little bit into who is Don Jones outside of TV.
oh boy, let's see. Who am I? Uh, I am what I call a joy practitioner. I'm always I'm always going to choose joy.
Yeah, I like that.
A joy practitioner.
They
So
put
I practice joy.
Oh yeah,
And just like anything else, it has to be conscious and intentional. And you have to practice joy. So I'm a joy practitioner. I love to laugh out loud. I love high heels and dresses because I was brought up in the Black Baptist church.
yeah.
So I'm a dress wearing, high heel wearing sister. Okay,
That's mm,
I enjoy it. I have come to terms with who I am as it relates to the things I do well, the things I don't do well. And I've come to terms with that. I am never going to be on time. I have already come to terms with the fact that I'm always going to be running about 5 minutes late.
But okay. You're gonna be late, but do you be like, okay, I'm right outside, knowing you really just left the house? Are you one of them type? I'm right down the street, and you really just left the house.
I'm not one of those type because I don't lie to people. I don't lie to myself and I don't lie to people.
Okay. Oh, I can't stand that.
I will say in a text message, leaving the house now
Okay.
or on my way.
Mhm.
And when I'm in the vehicle, I'll text on my way. So
Mhm.
I do that more now because in the vehicle on my way, I really am on my way. And I've come to terms with that. I told a coworker a little while ago another phrase that I coined. I'm not necessarily efficient, but I'm effective.
Mm.
I get the job done. I don't leave a job undone, and I do it well
Yes.
in excellence.
Listen every time.
Yes. If you get caught up in my process, then you may not understand that. Don't get caught up in my process. Get caught up in the results.
Right. Don't worry about all that. Yeah.
Don't worry about all that. It's time for the news to come on, and I'm walking from news on at 11:58. It's 11:56, and I'm trying to still find the right shade of pink lipstick I want to wear. So, but at
The
11:58,
producer's really, 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 really nervous every day.
they're not because I am there, I am prepared, and I execute in excellence
Mm.
every day.
Woo.
I
Ooh.
don't sit, when I sit down, I am prepared. I have read my show,
Mm.
my makeup is on, and I'm ready for the live light to go on, and I'm ready to do what I came to do.
Right. Right.
So I am highly effective, not marginally effective.
Tell-
My strong suit is I am highly effective. And I hold on to it. I hold on to it. And so that's who I am. I'm highly effective. I love to laugh out loud. I love God. I love my family.
You do.
I cherish my children and my husband. They are my forever besties. I cherish the relationships I have in my life. The older you get, the more you realize that relationships are the only things that really matter.
Yes, it does.
And I cherish the relationships I have in my life. I love to smile because I am genuinely joyous. I don't have anything to complain about. And my smile is genuine, it's real. When I'm sad, I don't have any problem with expressing that.
Hmm. I don't know if I've ever seen you upset.
Yeah. Oh, I can get upset. I can get mediocrity pushes me to
Mm. Mm.
being upset.
Okay.
I don't when you're highly effective,
Yeah.
you don't do well in mediocrity.
Mm.
And people with it's good enough attitude. That gets me there.
Type folks.
The bare minimum, and it's it may be a fault of highly effective people, but when you're highly effective, that bare minimum,
Mm-mm.
it's good enough.
Mm.
I'm the girl. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. If I'm not going to do it, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it well.
Sound like you were raised the way I was, because my mama said if any of you put your name on anything, it better be done with excellence.
Yeah.
Your name is on that. You need to make sure that
Yeah,
done very well and with excellence. That's why when you said that, I kind of got me out my seat because that was a phrase that I heard my entire life. You do it with excellence.
yeah.
Time.
That is the goal. You set out that excellence is always the goal.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Excellence is always the goal. And so mediocrity moves me off my square a little bit
Mm,
because there's no need for it. If you don't want to do it,
just don't do it.
then don't do it.
Just don't. You know, I
But
I tell people all the time. Listen, I do it myself. I'd rather struggle, stay up late, figure things out, and do it myself. And I know it's at least done to a standard, even if I have to figure it out, versus seeing you do it and it's, excuse my
half done. That was the
kind of.
term in my house. Don't half do anything. So,
Yeah,
uh, but I try not to get uh, upset. It's I try to. I am solution oriented, and I taught my kids to breathe, pray, process, and proceed. And that's how I approach everything. I take a breath, I pray about it, I process it, and then I proceed.
you got a lot of phrases that needs to be on t-shirts.
I don't know anything about that. Does that pay, Jamal? No.
So it definitely could be a income that when they're purchasing your book, when they're purchasing a little bit where that goes along with it.
The merch, as my kids call it.
There you go, the merch, from your store. Talk about how you really balance. Is it hard to really balance? Because working in the news business, there's a lot of long hours, and I'm sure there's a little bit more steadiness now in your career. But I know family is really important to you. Your faith is really important to you. Being part of the community is really important to you. Like, you are a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. So I know you've been doing that for a really long time. Remember when you were designing me and my wife's invitations.
I still love it.
Yeah, the remember it was lavender and silver tone. It was with the ribbons. It was really
Mhm.
really fancy, y'all. I had to go pull it out of a book somewhere, but you've always done all of these different things. Like, how do you balance all of these things and still do those things with excellence and love and with a smile on your face?
I because I'm over myself, right? I'm over myself. I was telling someone not too long ago when I was raising kids and they were in band,
Mm.
cheerleading, every after school club and everything that they wanted while I was working full time. When women ask, can you have it all? You can have it all, but you have to decide what you're going to sacrifice.
Mm.
You can have it all, but you have to prioritize what all is.
Yeah, there you go.
So I was a working mother. And I don't want to out my husband here, but I stayed home with my kids when they were maybe I was at DZ when I had Courtney. So I stayed home when she was a baby until they were about 2.
Okay.
But I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. Like, goodness gracious.
Oh, that was
I just need to be able to go to the bathroom.
one minute. Yeah.
1 minute. So I told my husband, I says, I don't think I'm cut out for the stay-at-home mom kind of because
Oh, mom.
I want to read. Back then, I used to buy the Essence magazine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mhm. It was the actual magazine. I would go to the bookstore, buy the actual magazine. And I wanted to go to the bathroom and just read my magazine. Kids push door, they crawling, they push the door open, they're in there, they're in all of your business, they're asking questions. So I told my husband, I said, I don't know if I'm cut out, sir, to be a stay-at-home mom. And he said, okay, well, you can go back to work at DZ if you want. And he did say, if you want. And I said, okay. I says, I think I want. It gives me about 5 hours.
Mm,
And if I want to go, and read my magazine while I'm there. It just gives me an outlet. It gives me something to do.
Right, right, right.
And I went back to work, but between going back to work and the kids getting to elementary school, which is when I really wanted to be home, and middle school, I realized I wanted to be home those years because that's when I think they need you the most.
Yeah.
Rodney had built me a house based on a two-income household.
Ooh.
And he said, "Oh no, you missed your window on that." Mm-mm.
Sorry. Mm.
And I want to stay. I think I want to stay home now. He's like, "Oh no, 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 no."
He said,
Remember, remember the whole conversation about we need more space.
mm,
You know, the kids have stuff, we have stuff we need. And I said, "Okay."
mhm.
And we built the house.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "We didn't build the house with anticipation that you were going to say a year later,
Mm-hmm.
"Mm-mm, I want to stay home now." Because I still wanted to be able to take the kids on vacation. And basically, that's what my salary did. It took care of all of the needs the kids had, all of the band instruments we went through, the vacations, the uniforms,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all of the new endeavors, all of the swimming class, all of that.
All of that. Yeah.
And so Rodney said, it's just not feasible. And I said, okay. I had to keep working, but my family was my priority. So my kids will tell you, I made the football games.
Hmm.
I made the cheerleading competitions. I was tired. Oh, I was tired, but I was there.
Yeah.
The sacrifice on the other side was I could tell an awesome story. I'm storytelling on TV, but I'm not spending 30, 35, 40 minutes in the bathroom putting my makeup on. Eh, I decided that it was okay for me to take those 35, 40 minutes for myself after I got my story written and edited to
Right.
just breathe.
Breathe a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Manage.
that's what that was my moment. But now I'm dialed up every day. Let me tell you, I'm dialed up every day, and um, it was I was just tired, Jamal. I was tired, and I decided that that would be the sacrifice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend that 35 minutes. I would
Yeah.
spend 35 minutes. I put some lipstick on, put a little foundation on, but I'd spend that 35 minutes that I would have spent in the bathroom uh, doing the works. I would spend that time meditating, just decompressing.
Yeah, for sure. And they didn't use the word much then, but you were looking out for your mental health.
I was, and I would just decompress because the question was coming, Mom, what's for dinner? So I had other stuff I had to think about.
Right.
For when I got done telling these amazing stories on TV,
Right.
I still had to be mom. And on Friday nights, I was at somebody's football stadium
Oh,
after
oh, facts. Yeah, for sure.
watching a football game
Yeah.
with the question after the game, Ma, what's for dinner?
Westwood. Because they don't care nothing about what you had to do all day. No, it don't make no never mind.
What's for dinner? And I don't want Gogurt in my lunch tomorrow.
Because that's what's important.
Yes. So
Oh
you,
man.
you have it all and you decide what you can sacrifice while you're having it all. I I'm happy I was able to be present in the lives of my children
Yeah.
and also work.
Yeah.
And I was nominated for my first Emmy while I was raising kids. So I was still telling amazing stories
Ooh.
and raising my children and being present and showing up. I won't pretend that it was easy, or
Right.
I won't pretend that I was not tired. Uh, I won't pretend that I always looked put together. But I was willing to sacrifice those things to, as they say, have it all.
Have it all. But now you look back on it, and as you
Oh,
can,
it was well worth it.
yeah, there you go.
It was well worth it.
Sure.
It
For
was well.
sure. For sure. If you could leave us with a story or a lesson or something like that, what would you leave us with, Don?
Oh boy. Are you looking for motivation or are you just
Yes,
looking?
please motivate us. Get us to smile the way you do.
I guess smiling has to be authentic.
Mm,
And if I was going to leave you with a piece of advice, I'd say uh, know yourself. Know who you are and become comfortable with every nook and cranny of who you are.
mhm.
Understand what makes you happy. Understand what makes you sad. Understand what your boundaries are. Understand what you're going to accept or what you're not going to accept. Understand everything that makes you you and become comfortable with that.
Yeah,
It doesn't make it wouldn't make you any difference what anyone has to say about you. When you are comfortable with who you are, you can take what you need to take and leave what you need to leave.
there you go.
And only when you're operating from a place of truly knowing who you are can you smile authentically. Can you give to others authentic? You can give, you can forgive, you can do because you know who you are.
Yeah,
So I would say spend some time with self and get to know who you are. And don't compromise and don't make people think don't let people make you think that because you like strawberry jam instead of grape jelly, something's wrong with you. Or you like it, that's what I like, and okay. And the best piece of advice I ever heard probably was from Oprah. And Oprah said, it's 8 billion people in the world, and you get to choose. You may not be everybody's cup of tea, but there's 8 billion. You know how much? 8 billion people
mm,
in the world. And you can decide who's in or out of your space.
yeah,
And if it's not this one, maybe it'll be that one because there's 8 billion people. We don't have to settle for anything.
right.
It's 8 billion people in the world.
I like that. I like that. So,
Find somebody who promotes your happy.
yeah,
Find somebody who promotes your joy. Find somebody who wants to be in your space.
yeah,
You don't have to settle for anything because it's 8 billion. And when you sit down and really think about how big that number is, then you're able to, you say, oh, I don't have to put up with that, or I don't have to do that.
mhm.
I am fine just like I am. And somewhere amongst these 8 billion,
8 billion with a B.
mhm,
Mhm.
are a few who also think that, oh, she's fine just the way she is. Find those people.
I love it. That is amazing, amazing advice. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate you. Tell
Oh, I
everybody,
appreciate you.
tell us where we can go purchase our book.
Speak. Now about the book. Here I go. I'm becoming a book promoter now. Speak is a beginner's guide to overcoming the fear of public speaking and owning the room. It's a skill that can be mastered. You too can do it. Pick up the book. You can download it. It's a PDF. It's an ebook, a PDF. It's a $15 investment. It's for anybody ages uh, two
Right.
to 102.
Yeah.
It's a simple read, and you can get it at stan.store/Dawn Jones Media.
That's awesome. And then if anyone wants to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Oh, they can do that. I am Dawn Jones Media Creates on Instagram. I'm also Dawn Jones Media on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok I just got into the TikTok
Ooh,
game
check you out. Fancy.
at at Dawn Jones Media One, the number one. That's who I am on TikTok. And Dawn Jones Media creates on Facebook.
That is awesome. Don, I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. I love you for being who you are the entire time. I've known you since 2005. I met you
Hmm.
in 2005. So for 20 years now, and you have always been who we see today, and I truly appreciate it. You've been one of my mentors. You've always been the standard that we are able to look up to, and I truly appreciate it. And you've been holding it down at our lovely station over the years, and I love that. I really do love that. Has some have wavered left or right, and you've been able to keep that ship steady for us. I truly appreciate that. You holding it down for us people. Uh, but I do appreciate it, and thank you for joining Be Real Matters podcast.
Okay, and I just want to say I'm so incredibly proud of you, Jamal, and it was my honor and my pleasure to be on your podcast and everything you're doing to create the next generation of storytellers.
Yeah, we
And
gotta do it. We gotta.
yeah, it's important,
Yeah,
and we can't let this industry lose its power because it is a powerful industry and it is necessary that we train the next generation of storytellers. So kudos to you and
thank you.
everything that you're doing and your commitment to that cause. Those of us who've been in this industry, we appreciate it. We know it's not easy, but we appreciate it. And whatever I can do to help, I'm
Oh, for
always here
sure.
to do that.
I know you.
And I am proud. I am proud of you for sure.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jamal.